eyes and ears, please, for the chat and any
We got you.
questions and anything like that. But go ahead and get started. And can we make sure we're also recording? I see
Got you.
the record button. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
hi everyone. Welcome to the first ever official Black in Data and Analytics, aka BLK in DNA, Tableau user group kickoff. We're really excited to be with you guys here today. This has been a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes work and effort that a lot of people have put in. So we're really excited to bring this group to you guys. We'll get a little bit into the backstory a little bit later, but we just want to say welcome. Hope you've had a really good day so far. If not, hopefully this will be a nice bright spot in your day. So to get started, we're going to go over a brief welcome intro. You get to know myself, the co-leads, as well as what the origins of this group are and kind of why we decided to revive it / create it. And then we'll go into a Viz showcase, which I'm personally super excited for. So we'll have a few guest speakers and a few recordings of people showcasing Tableau public visualizations that they've made around the theme of Black culture and history. Then we'll have a brief networking session, and then we'll wrap up with a general Tableau tug Q&A. We'll see who's hiring, who's looking for roles, and then also we'll let you guys know how you can stay connected with this group. So with that being said, let's get into it. And as I mentioned, you guys please feel free to throw anything in the chat. Alice and Rashid will be monitoring that very diligently. Okay, so this is the dream team. I'm not going to introduce everyone. I'll introduce myself, and then I guess we'll go Alice, Rashid, and then I'll do an intro for Sekou. So hi everyone, my name is Zifa Mexo. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work as a data technology consultant at Curis. Been using Tableau for around, I think we're coming up on like 4 years now, which seems so long, but also so short. And I'm also a Tableau social ambassador. So I like to say I like live, sleep, eat, breathe Tableau. I love it. Love Tableau Public. Love the community. And yeah, I will toss it to Alice to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alice McKnight. I am currently outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a senior data analytics consultant with PH Data. I've been using Tableau roughly almost 3 years now, and I've been working in consulting for the last two. I am a career background is in microbiology and public health. I spent most of my career as a health scientist at CDC, and I transferred into data in a little over 2 years ago. So I fell in love with Tableau and um, pursued an opportunity to do that majority of my time, and I absolutely love it. And I too am a Tableau social ambassador. So if you follow me on Twitter, I talk a lot about Tableau. I enjoy creating vizzes, talking about Tableau, and talking about transitioning into this field because I got here because of the community, and I'm here to give back.
Nice. All right, guys. I'm the old man in the group. I'm Rashid Banat. I'm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been using Tableau since 15, 14, 8, 9 years now. I'm a former everything. I'm a former user group ambassador. I won the Tableau Battle of the Banks, which was like a mini Iron Biz in 2020. And I'm a former employee. I was a lead solution engineer at Tableau for the last 2 years. Now I am a senior lead analytics consultant at Wells Fargo, primarily in finance, and I'm always happy to help. I've been doing this Tableau thing for a while now, and I'm always happy to kind of share what I know about this thing, pass it down to you young folks, 2 years and 3 years in Tableau. Oh, it must be nice. You get bitter when you get old. You get to my age, you start doing this for 8, 9 years. But happy to help you guys the best any way I can. And I'll let Zifa tell you about Sekou, because most of you either you know Sekou or you should know Sekou, because Sekou's mad. Even though I
Well
can't do it
said.
right now.
That's no, that's like the perfect intro. I'm like, if you
Yeah,
probably know, like if you don't know,
yeah.
you know. If you don't know, now you know. Last but not least, we have Sekou, who is not with us today. He is currently on the way to Atlanta for his sister-in-law's wedding, I think. So he has been super instrumental though in getting this off the ground. If you guys were at TC23 and you were at the meetup that he organized, it was really great for us to come together as a community. So that was also kind of part of this whole initiative and just getting us together and allowing us to link up and just have a really great time. So he's also a senior manager of data engineering at Lovelytics, and you can follow him on Twitter, YouTube. I love his podcast, 10-Minute Tuesdays. That's like my favorite thing. He like interviews a bunch of people in the data industry, 10 minutes, and you'll learn so much. So definitely recommend following that on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. That is my shameless plug. And with that being said, let's get a little bit into, I guess, how this group came to be. So as I mentioned, I've been using Tableau for around or for about 4 years, but I first got introduced to it in college, graduated, kind of did some self-learning in the community. And I guess before I even joined the community, there was so much about Tableau that I didn't know. But once I joined, I was definitely looking for mentors and people that looked similar to how I looked. And it was probably like 3 or 4 people out of like a community of hundreds of people that I found that really like looked like me and could kind of share similar experiences and things like that. So that was a little, I don't want to say off-putting, but it was definitely like not the best feeling to not see yourself represented in a community that you want to be a part of. And so with that being said, like since I joined in maybe like 20, I think it was around 2020, we've definitely seen like a lot more Black people come into the Tableau community, and we've started to, I think, build this community, but it almost feels like there's a lot of us but we don't know about each other. And so like for me personally, like the company that I work at, like in my US division, like I'm the only Black woman at my job. So selfishly, I just wanted to kind of network and meet with more Black professionals, either in Tableau or just in the analytics space, because I think there's something to be said when we come together, share experiences. So the goal for this user group is part like obviously to learn Tableau, but it's not just going to be like Black people talking about Tableau. I think there's a lot more that we can accomplish and really talk about together, such as like how our data is being used or misused. I think there's a lot of information and conversation about that. And really just fundamentally, I believe like make change personally in our lives, but also like the world as a whole. I'd love to see more Black people in analytics in Tableau, like doing this work. So hopefully this is a group that can kind of jumpstart that and just really be a nice place where we can come together and, like this says, build a brighter and more inclusive future in the world of data and analytics. That is my soapbox. Now let's get to the fun part. So this is going to be the start of our Viz showcase. We really just wanted to, I mean, as probably all of you know, I think a lot of things in this world, like music, pop, just general like trending culture is really Black culture. And I think a lot of times that's not really seen or talked about. They're just like, oh, this is cool. But we really are the culture. So we decided it'd be really cool to take a look at some visualizations that people have built that are around just like Black culture, Black history, Black themes, which really arguably is like all culture in my opinion. So without further ado, I'll toss it to Rashid and we'll just go down in order. We'll have Rashid, Kayla, and Alice share their visualizations, and then Chimdi and Sekou can be here, but they kindly recorded their vises and a walkthrough of that. So then I'll play those videos for us to see. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And Rashid, I will let you take it away. Oh, you're on mute. You're
Can
still
you hear
on
me
mute.
now?
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
All right. So sorry about that. All right. All right. Let's try that again. It's always fun with these new platforms. All right. Give me a second. Hopefully you can tell me if I'm sharing and you can see my screen. So let's do this. Okay. I think you can see my Tableau public page. Is that right?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, I'm Rashid, guys. Today I'm gonna, and like I said, I've been doing this Tableau thing for a while. I have a whole bunch of stuff on Tableau Public. The thing about me, I like to try to do, like to push Tableau to the limits, kind of just to see like if it's possible. So this was something that I kind of was. Another thing you'll know about me is I'm a big proponent of Tableau Public for no other reason that it can be your own personal sandbox. There's a lot of times, where you're using Tableau at your company and you're only going to necessarily have a certain amount of flexibility with what you can do, meaning that the data is going to be pretty structured, the expectations are going to be pretty structured. You may never find yourself building, an image map or, some advanced histogram or something. It's not going to be part of the use cases that you see. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't still learn how to do it, because it could come in handy. So I like to do a lot of stuff on Tableau Public just as like practice, just so I have a way of knowing that if the scenario comes up at my job, I now know how to do it. So this was something that I wanted, I was kind of playing around in my head. I wanted to build a dashboard just really around women in hip hop over the years. This is something, I know we've got the 50-year, anniversary of hip hop that's been kind of called out a lot during 2023, but it's important. Like, for you young guys, you don't really realize that hip hop wasn't like, people like fought to kind of keep it around for like a long period of time. Like it wasn't universally embraced, and let's say in those early years. And it was funny because when I started doing this, I kind of wanted to do it to kind of show kind of like which kind of artists over the years were the best selling and things of that nature. But I realized real quick that it's very subjective. Like you really can't compare album sales of Latifah to Spotify plays of like, Nicki Minaj or Cardi B, because they're not exactly one and the same. And a lot of women in hip hop today make their money in a multitude of ways. Like that's just one of their revenue streams. So it's like you're not comparing apples to apples anymore. So once I kind of realized that, I kind of said, all right, let me just transition into a dashboard that could just be kind of walking through over time, just major moments in hip hop. And this is really just a combination. It's text heavy. I didn't really spend too much time on it, but I did want to kind of just call out kind of how I did it, because this is a combination of using image maps. As you can see, there is a real video playing there on the left side. There's that aspect of it, and there's also this aspect of using Figma, in your design, because creating something like this, it may look like it's complicated, but it's really not. It's pretty basic at the end of the day. So I'm going to spend just 5 minutes walking you through kind of how I did this at the highest level. If you don't know Figma, you can use Figma for free. There's a bunch of other design programs out there. Most of us like Figma because, again, it's browser-based, it's free. You don't have to, spend any kind of money. And it allows you to do things that, you cannot do natively in Tableau. And the thing I always like to do is like, if you can see here, like this is the kind of the basis of the dashboard. I just found the picture online. I found this picture that you see here on the left, just doing a Google image search. And when I found it, I kind of knew that this is what I wanted to use for my dashboard, but I wanted to build something like what you see over here. I wanted to build a long form dashboard and kind of stretch it out, but keep that color palette, keep that same look, and then just kind of maybe fade that into like a black color. Figma made this extremely easy. I literally just took the picture, put it in the top left corner, and the color of this larger box is a gradient. And that's something that you can do in Figma quite easily, where it's taking that color in the bottom right section of the image and then just fading it into a black as we go. So this is something I do in a lot of dashboards because it gives you creative flexibility to kind of build something like this where it looks like it's seamless, but in reality, I just took one image and kind of made it blend into the background. Again, this is just a little image of like just a highway. This is something that was nothing special. Again, I think I found this doing more image searches, but I knew I wanted to create kind of that effect, and I wanted to kind of like, put markers on the highway representing kind of the years over time. So this is really the fundamental of, like, I would say, the background of what's in Tableau. Like if you went in Tableau, you would see this image as the background. The other thing I want to call out is that there are a lot of tools out there. If you go to my Tableau public page, I have this little link here called Tableau Resources. This is a dashboard of every link that I found that was important. Like, it came in handy. Some of the stuff still comes in handy. I literally still use a lot of this stuff to this day. It was just me kind of centralizing all of the various links that are out there around a whole bunch of topics, just so I could always kind of fall back on them. I'm a big proponent of like transparent files, transparent images. This is really, Florida's Twins got some good stuff on this as well. But I brought up this dashboard, and I'm saying all that to say that there is something, I think it's maintained by Interworks. It's called a color tool, and then the drawing tool for Tableau. There's two different things. The drawing tool for Tableau is this, and man, this is like a lifesaver. If you've ever had to do an image map in Tableau, it can be painful, like it's a monotonous kind of task. It's not hard, just time consuming. What this does, it just makes it so much easier. And all this is I'll show you how it works. I'm going to take that image I just showed you in Figma and bring it in here. This is the same image we were just looking at in Figma. It's just the whole thing and basically, you know, the little road. With this, I can plot points. I can plot paths and polygons as well, but I can just basically click on a highway and put a dot here, put a dot there, put a dot here, so on and so forth. And if you look at the right side of the screen, you're going to see every time I put a dot, it's basically plotting coordinates. You can bring this in as a CSV in the Tableau, and these coordinates is literally the coordinate of where the dot will be in Tableau. It's kind of like, I'll show you why this is kind of easier to describe in something like this. This is Microsoft Paint, and the reason I'm bringing this up, it's like saying exactly where you want to put a dot in Tableau, and then that dot can have data associated with it. So like if I wanted to put a dot on Missy's eye, if you notice, it's just using coordinates. You start at the top left corner. I want you to keep your eye on these numbers down here in the bottom left corner. So if you start at the top left, it's going to be 0 and 0, 0 height and 0 width, I guess you could say. If I go all the way to the right, you notice the numbers are changing. It looks like around here is about 540 is width. If I go down to Missy's eye, it's about 539 by 166. That's exactly the point coordinates of where Missy's eye is. What this name is letting you do, this image mapping tool, I can plot this. So now that it's plotted with those coordinates in Tableau, I can actually now start to associate data. So now I can put these dots wherever I want them and put data points around them. So that's literally how this works. It's like I said, it's not complex. This is on Tableau Public. You can download it and reverse engineer it if you want, but it's kind of a quick way of showing you some of the stuff that you can do more on the creative side around Tableau. And at the same token, teach you a little something about women in hip hop and, you know, Sha-Rock and a lot of people that were instrumental in kind of, you know, the hip hop movement in those early years. So with that, I'm Rashid. That's my 10 minutes. And I'm going to pass it back over now to the next presenter, which I think is Alice. Thanks, guys.
All right, give me just a second while I share my screen. Guys, and can you let me know if you can see my screen?
Yes, you can see it.
Absolutely, thanks. So once again, my name is Alice McKnight, and I'll be talking about my biz about reclaiming craft, Black brewers in America. Okay. This is just a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. I'm going to start with, like, why did I choose to create this biz in the first place? How did I choose this topic? How did I collect the data? I'll talk a little bit more about chart choice and design, and what did I gain from creating this viz. Okay, let me switch quickly right here. Why did I create this viz? In the beginning of my introduction, I talked about being a Tableau social ambassador, and I am one of those people who learned Tableau from the community. It was not a part of my job in the beginning, and I was using Excel for basically everything. Discovered Tableau and actually, fell in love with the possibility of it, and found the community and just started participating in the different challenges. And that's how I got into creating business and talking about Tableau online. So when I go to create visits, one of my main things, and what I would also tell anyone who's interested in just getting better at Tableau, even if it's just for work, is that the key is practice. The community is so good with providing data sets and challenges across different interest. So it's really easy to jump in and create things on your own. But in order to get good, you have to practice. So, and one of the best ways to practice is to find data that you love or a topic that you love. It makes the process easier and more fun and easier to keep going when you get stuck. Okay. So last year, around December, I usually create visits and get stuff out on a pretty good cadence, but I had a little bit of a rut around in December. So I decided to challenge myself to get some visits out for Black History Month that I would kind of hold myself accountable to doing. So what we have here are 3 visits that I created over those 3 months that I posted during Black History Month. It gave me a good time frame. My goal was to get 4 of these visits out. I got 3. The 4th one still lives, and I still have the data, and I'll eventually get that out. But I was really proud to get these 3 out. And this presentation will be focused on this second one. Okay, so how did I choose this topic? Earlier, I spoke about visiting what you love, and one of the things I love is craft beer. When I came to Atlanta, maybe about rough 20 years ago for graduate school, I was not a big beer person, but I did have a friend who was, and they introduced me to one of the local breweries in Atlanta. And I just went as a friend just to hang out. And they told me they would find something that I would like. And I did. Found something that I liked, a nice little summer light blueberry flavored beer. Loved it. And it just opened the door into my love of craft beer. As the years passed, like a hub of craft brewery. In the beginning, there was only like 3 local small breweries, but now there's easily 30, 40 breweries here that you can go visit. And as that number grew, we started getting a couple of Black-owned breweries. One of them was owned by a friend of mine, and he started letting me know a little bit about the history of Black brewing in America. So in the background, I've always had this interest hovering around. In this picture are 2 currently in my house. I refuse to drink them because I just love the cans and how I got them. The first one is a West Coast brewery. They did a special series on HBCUs, and that is their West Coast IPA. And the second one is called Black is Beautiful, and it's a collaboration with a Black-owned brewery in Texas with a local brewery in Atlanta. They made a series of beers called Black is Beautiful. Each brewery makes their different recipe based on the Weathered Souls based stout recipe. So I have this list. The last can I have of it. I love it. It was made in response to the unrest in 2020. I can't give it up, so I can't drink it. So now it's a memento. Okay. So when I chose that topic, now it's time to get the data together. The original idea for this viz was just to be a map that would have, that you will hover over the map and see how many Black-owned breweries were in your state, and you would get a tooltip that showed where the brewery was, a link to their site if they had one, and then some narrative around Black brewing in America. So when I did Google, I found this article in Thrillist that gave some landscape of the current landscape of Black breweries in America. And it had a really good list of about 7 Black-owned breweries at the bottom of this article. And that was going to be the base of my viz. As I was reading the article, though, it linked to this longer viz that's called We're Reclaiming Beer Because It's Ours. And this is a longer history of Black brewing in America. And I just fell in love with the information that was in this article. And reading this article just expanded what I wanted to do with the viz, because I wanted to share some of these nuggets that were inside of the article. I wasn't aware of how deep and rich the history of Black brewing had been in America, and that recently how that culture is being revived. So I definitely wanted to make that a part of my viz, and make it my viz more than just showing the breweries, but also giving people a little bit of that history. And this is also where I got the title of the viz. Okay. The next part was data collection and prep. And oftentimes this is just the hardest thing to do. When you pick something that you love, finding data sets, clean data sets that have all the information that you want in it can be hard. For this one, it's just a basic Excel spreadsheet that I did a lot of copying and pasting to get. I definitely need to expand some of my web scraping abilities, because that would have made it a lot easier. But basically, this was a lot of copy and pasting for several websites, and some downloads from, in particular, this website for smaller independent craft brewers, which I could have done a viz totally just on that, based on information that was in that website. Okay. The next part is about choice and design. For me, I find design to be one of the hardest parts of making vizes. And it's just something that if you are not, I wouldn't consider myself to be naturally creative. So definitely creating vizes gives you practice. And as you practice, it becomes easier to design things. As Rashid said earlier, I use Figma for the background of this viz. Figma is such a good tool. It's easy to use. I've never been a user of like Illustrator or any other those common design tools, but Figma is really accessible, easy to use for even someone like me to use. So I always recommend it for someone who's looking for something a little bit more advanced than PowerPoint, but doesn't want to dip their foot into like things like Illustrator. Next part are like two of the big things that come to design: colors and font. Two other places that I absolutely love for inspiration and getting colors, even for like work vizes, are one, Pinterest. Pinterest just I just usually type in like color palettes, and you'll get tons of pages and links to different color palettes, and I just find one that speaks to me if I don't have a color idea in mind. The second one is a screenshot here for a website that's called Coolors, Coolors, and it's a color palette generator, and you just hit your space bar and palettes come up, and you just click the colors that you like and keep hitting space until you find a color palette that you love. You can save them. I find it really helpful. I use them a lot for my work, creating color palettes for work dashboards. I find it really helpful and really easy to use. I do basically the same process with fonts. I usually go to Google Fonts and font pairings to find fonts. If you go to Google Fonts website, you can just type in some text and you can see how that text looks in all of Google Fonts. So it's an easy way to like type things, get a feel for what fonts you like, and you can easily download those. If you don't want to download any other like fancier font that you'll find on one of the smaller font websites, Google Fonts has such a good variety it's easy to find something there. And also Pinterest, once again, type in fonts. You'll see tons of fonts that give you the feeling that you want, the look that you want. It's great for inspiration. Now I'm going to talk about a little bit of chart choices for this viz. I'm really partial to simple and clear traditional charts. I love them the best. I think they're really clean. I think they're really accessible. And what I really was aiming for was someone to take a quick glance at my viz and really hit the high points without a lot of trying to understand what the chart meant. And also this viz was very like narrative heavy. So I used a lot of annotations here. So I wanted to make sure that I lean toward people reading a little more than trying to think too much about the chart types. I did use a unconventional chart for this middle section when it shows that only 1 out of 100 breweries in America are Black owned. I thought about using something like a pie, but I want to do something a little bit more visually interesting. And I came across one of a waffle charts variations called a pudding chart. And one of the best things about the community is that they will have resources and templates for these different charts that you don't see as often. So I did pull this from a member of the community. They had a really good template for this. Basically, it's a lot of X, Y coordinates. And I did choose the shape here is called a hop, is what gives beer that bite, that bitter taste. And I use that throughout the viz, this little image. And what I want it to be like the showcase of the viz is this map. This was the original idea for the viz to begin with. So I definitely want to have enough real estate to put that in my viz. As I was reading those articles, I also wanted to put some history to certain breweries or certain locations here. Tableau does have the ability to do annotations, but it doesn't have a lot of formatting for those annotations. And I definitely want to jazz them up a little bit and highlight some keywords and get those to pop. So all these annotations that you see are made in Figma with the map background also on the Figma background, but in Tableau, I overlaid a transparent map. So if you were looking at this on Tableau Public, when you hover over each of the state, you'll get some additional information. But the key thing here that I want to put is to add some history about each one of these places and certain people. I definitely learned a lot from those articles, and I definitely wanted to highlight those here. And lastly, what did I gain from creating this viz? Well, first of all, I create vizes just because I like them. I like the things that I create vizes about. I learn a lot from them, so I get a lot just from creating them on my own. But I also get a lot from sharing my vizes to the community. I get a lot of feedback, a lot of recommendations of places that I hadn't heard of before. I got a lot of messages on Twitter and LinkedIn about people who went to one of the breweries that were located in their state and got themselves a beer from one of those breweries. So I got to, push my love for craft beer to other people, give people some new information. And also, I guess the biggest thing that I got from this viz is that if you were at TC23 this year, you could see a big version of my viz in the viz gallery this year. This was like one of the big honors for me. When I joined the community, I joined around TC 23. I mean, not TC conference. And I love the viz gallery. And it was such an honor that something that I created was there last year. So very happy to have gotten that from creating this viz. And I'm probably sure I took up my 10 minutes. I'm sure we're going to hold questions to the end. But yeah, thank you for listening. And I'm going to pass this on to Kayla.
All right. Hi, guys. Let me see if it will let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we got you.
Yes, we can.
See if I can make it a little bigger. I'm not sure if it shows up bigger. It's kind of small on my screen, but hopefully you guys can see that okay. Hi, I'm Kayla. Just a little bit about me. I work as a senior Viz specialist for Lovelytics, so I work with Seku. That's kind of how I ended up presenting today. So I'm slightly a little bit off, but it's about music festivals, and I feel like everyone can relate to that. Before I start, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for putting this together. I'm really excited about this user group, and I can't wait to see what you guys continue to do going forward. Um, and so, some background about this dashboard. So, this dashboard shows U.S. summer music festivals. And the way that I came to the idea to do this was first, I knew that I wanted to viz something. It'd been a while since I had done something outside of work. The last year was hectic. I started a new job. I moved across the country, and so I just hadn't been really spending as much time in the community. Um, and so I wanted to kind of jump back in, which is a little daunting when you've not done anything in a while to kind of hype yourself back up to viz again. And so before I started, I kind of set like a couple of parameters for myself, and like one thing I did was I gave myself a 2 week time limit to do this. I have a bad habit of like spinning my wheels on something for a long time. So like I have a stash of dashboards that are partially complete, but I don't feel like they're perfect. So I haven't put them out. So I told myself 2 weeks, we're going to put it out no matter what. And so that meant like not necessarily shooting for perfection, but shooting to learn something. And then also visiting something I loved, which I think Alice mentioned as well. I love music outside of work. That's kind of where I spend most of my time. I'm learning to DJ right now, which has been a ton of fun. So this was a topic that I'm passionate about. And then I was also, looking for something to do this summer. And of course, if you're looking for things to do, I mean, music festivals are happening across the country. And so really the idea came out of that, of like seeing a map of where all of the festivals were for the summer. So once I decided that I wanted to do the map, I needed to find some data. So I found this website, Music Festival Wizard, and they had this really cool search, engine here, where I was able to limit the festivals to summer. Um, and so somewhere that I would have gotten hung up before and that would have taken me longer than 2 weeks was like, well, questioning, do they have all of the festivals? Am I going to grab everything? Like, is it, kind of relying on something else to do the data? But in my mind, I figure, something was better than nothing. And, if there's something that gets missed and it comes up, I can always go back and add it later. And so, trying to not let something like that kind of hang me up. It's what it would have done in the past. So what was cool about this website is that for each festival, they had the information about like city, location, like dates, and they also had genres, and then the posters. And so when I saw, these posters, they always kind of followed kind of, I guess, the same pattern of where like the headliners' names were large, and then kind of, supporting actors or supporting not actors, supporting artists, their names are smaller, and kind of, lesser known artists as you kind of cascade down. And so that was something that I wanted to try to recreate in the dashboard because I kind of like that idea. And then again, what I noticed when going through all of the festivals, so many of them had like multiple genres. So it was kind of cool to see like, you can go to one festival and hear a little bit of everything. And so that was where the idea of the network diagram came from, was trying to figure out a way to kind of capture the overlap and the diversity within the festivals. So jumping back here to the dashboard, the graph that I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit is this network diagram here. So there's a tool, Tristan, a leader in the Tableau data fam. He has a website, La Data Viz, and it basically has advanced visualization generators for different types of advanced graphs. So I wanted to call this out because I definitely would not have been able to do this dashboard in 2 weeks without being able, to have this kind of at hand. So there's multiple types that you can, check out here. But I used the network graph. And so there's instructions. If you click here, you have to put together like a JSON file. And you can download an example. And so what I did was I took his example, which had the basic nodes and link information, and just reverse engineered that with my data to create my network graph. And then I did a little bit of customizing to add additional fields to it. But once you bring that information in here, you can download um, as either a desktop or CSV or Tableau Public, or even an image. And so I just pulled down that CSV and then plopped that into my dashboard that I was already working with. So jumping back over to the dashboard, so that kind of explains, some of the design choices I did here. So that's, like I said, it started with the map. That's kind of, what really drove this. But then I really like the idea, like the cascading by size. So I used it to like highlight states by the number of festivals they have. So California has 22, which is cool because I live in California. So I was like, perfect, just tons of festivals to check out here. And then also by genre. So these are the top 10 genres by the number of festivals. Um, and then because I brought in that network diagram, I kind of had these side by side because I thought they had a cool effect. The color design was more so trying to, I guess, capture summertime, like sunset colors. So I had more colors in the background when I started, but as I went through it, I didn't want it, with the network diagram is already kind of busy. So I just ended up making it a solid color with the border around. The bubbles here, or I made this in PowerPoint. It was just kind of touch. When I think of summer, some of the posters I saw had like bubbles and, people playing with like the bubble wand. So just wanted to bring that in. If you click on one of the bubbles here, it will filter down to the state. And so you're able to actually see those festivals by the city. And then I'm using Tableau's dynamic zone visibility to drive this by parameters to change the top 10 list to the actual festival names. So you kind of get some information about each festival, the dates, and then the genres. So that's one way to explore. I'm also using that dynamic zone visibility. And essentially with that, it's just like basically I have a parameter set up that based on the value, it shows or hides certain worksheets in Tableau. So you can click this and go back to the map. And those buttons are hidden until I need them. You can also drill down by genre for the map. So if I wanted to see, if I was interested in jazz festivals, I could drill down to see, okay, there, again, California kind of has the most right now. So if I click this again, it'll just bring up those jazz festivals. So you can clear the filter and then also go back. And with the network diagram, the light blue bubbles represent the genres, and the dark blue bubbles represent the festivals. So this is driven by size. So for example, rock has the most, shows up the most at festivals. So that bubble is the biggest. And then by each of these individual, you can kind of tell by the size of the size represents how many genres are at that festival. So the larger the dark blue dot, the more genres you can check out there. I thought it was kind of cool that you can kind of see branching out here is Afrobeats, which is starting to get more popular in America. And so you're starting to see some festivals pop up around that. So one thing that was a little different, like if I spent more time on this, I would have tried to do some more customization with the network diagram to kind of play between the two a little bit better, just for time and kind of figuring out that advanced generator. I wasn't able to deep into that, but I felt like this still gave you a pretty cool image here. And then the last chart was just to kind of give, I guess, a timeline of the song. I was interested to see if there was any patterns or anything like that. And then not surprising, where you tend to see the most so each square represents a festival. And where you tend to see the most festivals are these weekends. So, pretty much all the weekends throughout the summer, there are a ton of festivals going on everywhere. And so yeah, so I pushed this out last month, and I was actually able to get Visit a Day, which especially like I said before, because it was so hard to kind of get over that creative block to start visiting again. But I think it's because I did something that was relevant this summertime, and then also something that I was really interested in. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I'm also gonna give her a shout out because I think she's literally like in the airport. And I was like, thank you, like you don't have to come on and present. And she was like, no, like I'll come. This is the day is
Not
also
at
like a
the
huge
airport yet,
deal.
but I'm headed there soon. So
Soon to be, yeah, I would still be packing my
yes,
bag. So thank you for
I
sacrificing your
I'm about to
time.
finish packing now.
That's so real. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. The live presenters killed it. Like I think all these vises are so beautiful just in terms of design. But then when you look underneath, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there's so many tools and so many moving parts. I think that's the beauty of like all these visualizations. So thank you guys for presenting. Now we're gonna go into the recorded visualizations that we have. So we have two, they're both around 10 minutes. So let me go ahead and share. And hopefully the sound will also come through. You guys will have to tell me if you can't hear this. But actually, let me do a quick little intro. So before I play this video, this is a Viz walkthrough from Chimney. He is a Tableau visionary, two-time public ambassador, thousands of visits a day. He just like does a lot, is amazing, has really, I think, changed the pace in terms of like design when it comes to Tableau. Some of the things that I see him do, I'm like, I don't know how you did that. So the viz that he's going to walk through is around disproportionate movie casting in Hollywood. So we have this really great walkthrough. I'm going to play it. If for some reason you guys can't hear, please let me know. Maybe I can.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chimdi, and I'm a Tableau visionary. And I'm excited to be joining you at the very first ever Black in Analytics Tug. So, first of all, let me say congratulations for being the part of something awesome. I myself, I'm excited to be doing a walkthrough with you today. And even though I'm not able to do this with you together, I'm glad to be able to deliver it in this format. I hope that is still going to be as valuable to you, regardless of that fact. Okay. So let's.
Sorry, just want to confirm everyone can hear.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Jump into it. The viz we're going to be walking through today, as you can see, it's called The Disproportionate Casting of Black Actors in Gang-Related Roles. And so the whole idea is that it shows that for each of these roles that we can see here, gangbangers, gangsters, gang members, and thugs, every time there was a casting done for these roles, 62% of the time, for example, every time there was a gangbanger casting, it was played by a Black person. 21% of the time it was played by a white person. 7% of the time, Hispanic. 10% other. And then that chart that we're seeing there is called the Voronoi chart. And I'm just going to stop there in terms of what we're looking at here. I'm going to back up a bit. And so one of the things we can look at first is why even make a chart like this? And so the background, I'll give a bit about the background for the chart. I made it as part of the Diversity in Data Initiative, which is basically a Twitter challenge that gives us data sets with data pertaining to issues of diversity and things like that. And then we have to come up with creative ways of communicating and showing the insights in that data. So that's where this came from. With respect to the actual data itself behind the visual, it came about through some collaboration work at Vox.com, which is a review site. And essentially, they looked through tens of thousands of casting roles of Hollywood US movies, and they wanted to find out for these roles associated with gangbangers, gangsters, thugs, and gang members, what proportion of time did each race show up in these roles. To do this, they took the casting roles in the database, they looked up all the actors that played the roles, and then they then took note of all the races of these actors. And in doing that, they were able to create this data set. So I guess the way to think about it is that a lot of groundwork was done to make sure that what we're looking at here is a reflection of what's being done in Hollywood, at least up until this point. And so that covers the context behind why the viz was made and some background on the data, how it came about, and what's in it. I'll talk a bit about the tools that were used to create this viz. So first tool obviously would be Tableau, which is, our best friend. And then the second one would be Figma. For those who don't know, Figma is a design tool. It's used for things like prototyping, website design, and then in the Tableau community, we'll take that tool, we'll make backgrounds in Figma, we'll bring it into Tableau, and we'll use it with our charts in Tableau. That exact workflow, that's what I use for this viz here. If I go to the next view I've created here, we get to see just a bit of the portion that was done in Figma. So we have the movie reel, the title with the shadow, and actually I'm going to exit escape a little bit to show you. So I have a base background, and then some of these other things were brought in as floating components just to give the flexibility with placement so that things are exactly where I want them to be. So looking at the Figma portion, let's go back to the Tableau portion. As far as Tableau goes, we have two set of charts. The first one being a diamond-looking chart that's composed of 4 charts. This chart type is called Voronoi chart. And then over here, we have a supporting chart, which I'll talk about later. Looking at the main chart, how I was able to build this chart, let's check out the Gangbanger Voronoi. So here we see an individual view. And so what I did was I broke out each of the Voronoi, I broke out the data sets with each of those 4 dimensions into 4 individual data sets. And then I took those data sets and I leveraged the tool that was created by Tristan, who is also another Tableau visionary. And the goal is to help us create complicated visuals more simply and conveniently. And so I was able to use that 4 times on my 4 data sets to create 4 Voronois, which I then brought into Tableau 4 times. So that's what we get to see over here with these. So going back to the view, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I was able to create the visual symmetry that we see by taking the first one here and I stacked it with the second one, leveraging some Tableau containers so that I have these 2 stacked and the symmetry and balance is in place. And I utilize the same thing on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, so that with these 2 different sets of containers, I can basically move up, down, sideways if I need to. And that was how we were able to get things as closely balanced as possible in this view. Now that we've covered the majority of this, I guess the one thing I will say about the Voronoi chart is that I chose it because it's a good way to show part to whole. And seeing as we have these 4 race dimensions, we're simply looking to see for each of these movie role castings, what proportion of each of these dimensions are filling these roles. And that's why this was a great chart to show that. Now, moving up from this main chart here, I've done what I like to call like a supporting chart, which is what we see over here. So the whole idea is that we're looking to see, seeing as this is what's being done in the Hollywood movies, is there perhaps some motivation based on what we see in reality, right? So to analyze that, we're saying, okay, we have these movie roles and the proportion of castings for each of these races. Now on the right-hand side, we're going to bring in American demographics and say, what proportion of these races make up American gangs? So for example, over here, we can see Black people are overrepresented in the movies. Why? Because in real life, only 35% of gang members are Black. But in the movies, 64% of the time any of these roles were cast, it was filled by a Black person. And that kind of leads us to the next piece as far as like the whole concept behind bizzing in general and data biz. I would classify this as something more on the side of thought provoking. So we can say, okay, if the reality isn't reflecting what's being done in the casting roles, then what is the motivation behind the casting? Is there some kind of bias there? What is really driving this, right? So that's the whole idea. It's like we're asking these questions, and even though this viz doesn't have that answer, the whole goal is to say, what is going on here? Can we begin to evaluate? And so hopefully that's something that happens when you see something like this. You start to ask yourself these questions around, okay, where are we going? What has happened? You know, what is the background? And perhaps are there any ways to stop presenting things like this? Because at the end of the day, what we see in movies tends to impact our perspectives on reality. And that's all I'll say about that. So now that we've covered the visual side of things, I'd say the final piece here, going back to thoughts on minimalism, someone might come back and say, okay, so what's up with this circle and these little things here? What are they really doing here to show, to help the user? And with that, I'll say that when we think about what the eye likes to see, it's known that we like to look at curved objects more than sharp objects. And so because we have four diamond charts stacked together to create one big diamond, that's just a lot of like sharp edges in the mix. And so I thought, why not try to make this more visually balanced by bringing a circle to encapsulate these sharp edges and in the process make it more visually appealing. That was the first piece. And then the second piece is, okay, so these crosses, seeing as we have four different voronoi and seeing as the proportions are relatively similar, is there something we can do to make them more broken out so that it's really clear what is what? And so that's why these two lines cross in the middle there. And coincidentally, it does add a little bit of design flair. And so that's kind of what I try to do with my visits. I'm going to throw some design in there, but it should have some kind of function to be able to make it into the viz. Hopefully that's been helpful. I don't know that there's anything else to cover for this, but I will say that this viz is posted on my profile. So if you want to check it out further, please do so. Check it out, play around with it. If you have thoughts or questions, you can always reach out to me at any time. I'm always happy to talk. And overall, I'm going to say that once again, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I hope that you enjoy the rest of this tug. And once again, lots of value to you for being here today. Thank you and take care.
Okay, claps for that. Oh my gosh. Every time I see a viz that Chimney makes, it just blows my mind. And that was thought provoking, beautiful, just 5 stars across the board. Okay, so next we are going to go to the man, the myth, the legend. So I could go on for hours about all the things that Seiko has accomplished. We were actually back in 2020, yeah, when I first joined the community, and they were doing like featured authors, which basically they'll just choose like maybe a handful of authors on Tableau Public. They're doing really good work. So we were in the same like original featured author cohort. That's how we connected. Since then, like I'm almost always on his YouTube channel. Like he does Tableau videos, Power BI, the podcast has really been instrumental in the Du Bois challenge. Like he'll go into it and honestly like does so many things again and just all around the board. Really grateful to have him in the community. So that being said, I'll start the video, let him get into that. But all I'll say is I'm really excited for February for the Du Bois challenge to come back again. But let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Black in Analytics Tableau user group. I am Sekou Tyler, and I'm so excited that you all are here. Unfortunately, I can't be there at this moment. My sister-in-law is getting married this weekend, so I'm actually on the road to Atlanta. So pre-recorded some of the dashboards that I built out and just looking forward to connecting with everybody on the next session. I hope you're all having a great time. So let's go ahead and hop into this one. So the first one is a Du Bois challenge Twitter usage. So Du Bois challenge, it was started by Anthony Starks, Alan Hillary, and myself. And then we also have Chimney on board as well. And we started this in 2021. And the challenge is basically, how can we recreate W.E.B. Du Bois dashboards, visualization, data visualizations, and using modern tools? So there's a really great article out here in the Nightingale that shows the challenge itself. It gives an overview. It was written by Anthony Starks, again, one of the founders of the Du Bois Challenge, and it really highlights what we were trying to accomplish when we created it, and then how we continue to honor the legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois. So one of the things is it talks about the process and what we're using, the different tools. So we use Tableau. We saw a lot of people using R, some Power BI, Deckish, et cetera, et cetera. So the challenge itself is tool agnostic, but we use Tableau for some of it. And what the dashboard I created is to measure the results of people that were using it. And we're measuring by looking at the people who are using Twitter, now called X, now potentially rebrand next week. But we're leveraging the hashtag Du Bois Challenge and pulling in that data and created a dashboard on top of it. And so this is a great article that's out there. If you just Google Du Bois Challenge, you'll see this information out there. If you also want to participate, Anthony has this in his GitHub repository. And then just to give an overview of what the recreations of the portraits are, this is what it originally looks like. W. Du Bois created himself. And then this is what it looks like in a modern day tool. So again, using different tools, different platforms, different products to recreate these visualizations. And then there are a number of plates. So Anthony has done a great job of organizing all of this information to where you can see each individual plate, click on it, and the data sets are readily available as well. So if there is a plate in here that you want to do or recreate, the data set is readily available for you to come in here and actually recreate this. This is a great way of actually learning a product and understanding the data, and a great way of doing some advanced complex things in here as well. If you come into the actual challenge itself, so if I actually go into GitHub, you see the individual plates. So if I want to look at, let's say, plate 01, you come in here, click on it, and then it has the PNG and all the information in there as well. And then actually
can you hear me?
into the challenge folder.
Yeah.
The question was, can the YouTube video box be any bigger? Like, I know we couldn't on the Google Sheets, but
you know what?
yeah, because it is very hard
let
to
me
read.
try this. Give me 1 second.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's good. Thank you, because I couldn't see. Okay, you guys have to tell me if this is better, hopefully.
You'll see each individual challenge. So we've done different.
Is that better or it's the same?
No, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
Okay. What if we do?
That's a little bit better.
Better? Okay. Let's go with this.
Yeah. Okay.
Weights for each individual year. So if we want to look at, let's say, 2023's, go to challenge 1, you'll have the CSV itself, and then you have the original plate in here as well.
Sorry about that.
Well. So if you want to see what this plate is, you click on the CSV, and this is what you're recreating using the tool of your choice. So again, this is Tableau user group. You use Tableau to recreate this using the bar charts and then using the tables itself. So that is the concept of the challenge, and definitely recommend participating. And if you do participate, make sure you tweet or go on LinkedIn or what have you, tag us, and we will see that you are participating and can answer questions and do all that. We're just trying to get high visibility into the challenge. So back to the dashboard at hand. This is the actual dashboard for usage based on 2022 metrics. So what I ended up doing was, again, scraping the information based on the Du Bois Challenge hashtag. And from a design perspective, what I wanted to do is have my key KPIs called out. So what are the key information that I wanted to show? And what I wanted to call out was the number of total tweets, the total of unique users, and then really just looking at date and trending information. So the date with the highest activity of the participation online. And then to the left, we have a map. So really just trying to get a geographic feel of the users. And all of this, again, is based on Twitter information. So if you have a city and state in your bio, we were able to pull it in and scrape it. If you don't have one, then we weren't able to create a map off of it. And then in the middle, we're just looking at people with a follower account and the people who actually tweeted with the hashtag. So you kind of zoom in and see some really big names on here from a Tableau perspective. So we have like Tableau Public, Alberto, R Square. So really good participation from people in the community and the number of followers that they have. And then this is just looking at information over time. So if you want to look at year, quarter, month, just your hierarchical breakdown, we can kind of see how we're trending from year over year, quarter over quarter, month over month. And then in the bottom really gives you that information of the tweet itself. So all of this is actually hyperlinked. So if you come on here and actually click on the tweet, you can click it and it'll take you to the website and it'll actually take you to the tweet itself. So again, we're looking at everything that has the Boy Challenge 2022, any of those hashtags, and make sure we have that information in there. And then another thing as well is that we're using Tableau's functionality when it comes to hyperlinking and using web URLs. So we have it in our data set of the actual URL itself. That's how we're able to hyperlink it and use that functionality in here. I think we also have some filters. So I think we have some just dates. So if there's additional date information, if there's an individual hashtag that you want to look at specifically, you can do that. When we first started, we were using Du Bois Challenge, but then we went Du Bois Challenge 2022, then Du Bois Challenge 2023, so on and so forth. And then if you want to look at just people who are verified, we can do that. And then if there's an individual Twitter handle that you're looking at and see their participation, you can look that up as well. So really, this is just one of those information visualization dashboards about the challenge that we can come in and see, really this idea that we started with and how it's actually grown year over year. So some of you all might be asking, well, how did you actually get the data? How did you scrape the data? So what I ended up doing was using a Python script to, in essence, scrape the information online using a hashtag and then just exporting it out to a CSV. So the Python script is using two libraries. It's using modules Twitter and pandas. And basically the script I found online, I didn't create it from scratch, but this website up here shows how to scrape tweets. So if you Google how to scrape tweets, you'll see this article. So I pretty much followed it along. And then the code is in here. And the biggest piece that I had to do was change the hashtag that we were using. So this one is Du Bois Challenge, but if we were doing Du Bois Challenge 2022 or Du Bois Challenge, 2023, so on and so forth. And then we need to change our date range as well for what we're looking at. That piece will give us the information. And then based on that, we're able to get information such as the date, the ID of the tweet, the content, the retweet count, likes, quotes, source, username, location, follower count, URL, and if it's verified or not. I think there's some more information that we could have pulled in, but these were the pieces that we did actually pull in from the tweets itself. These were valuable for us, so that's what we're leveraging. And then at the bottom of the Python script, we're just giving it an alias. So instead of it being date, we're calling it date time, tweet ID, content, so on and so forth. So we're just giving it the alias so that when it's actually exported to the CSV, it is exported with these column headers, and then we're able to leverage that information in Tableau itself. So that is how we went from creating this random idea in our head to actually creating a dashboard, creating a challenge to get user generation and people actually participating, to actually creating a usage dashboard that we can show whoever about the participation of the challenge itself. So this is a really great one of how whoever is empowered to create an idea, but once you have that idea and the challenge in your mind, then how can you show off the results of the participation without having your users go into a Google form, submit what they've done, and then you're tracking everything. Here's how you can leverage, public data and create your own usage dashboard and, track it that way. So this is our Du Bois Challenge metrics dashboard. I have one more dashboard that I want to show. I am a product of Tennessee State. I went to TSU, the real Tennessee State, the real TSU here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm also a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. So if any of y'all are frat members, hit me up, let me know. Go mob to all my Sigmas out there. But for this individual challenge, I wanted to, again, use data and use Tableau Public as a public-facing thing to highlight where all the active and inactive historically Black universities and colleges are located. So if you don't know what HBCU is an institution of higher education. It was established before the Civil Rights Act of 1964 with the intention of primarily serving the African-American community. So I wanted to leverage Tableau Public and its resources to get all of this information in front of you, and then also use some interactive piece of it as well. And then also have the website that you can go and click on if you want more information about that individual university. So this one really this design came from Chantilly's modern design video out there. So if you go on YouTube and look at modern design, she'll walk through how you use the modern design for your dashboard. So this was created not using color blind friendly colors, but I have my greens and my reds available, and I have the total. So these are my KPIs. So every visual, I want to make sure that I have a KPI called out. And then I have an individual map. So if you want to look at the actual individual location, you can do that. And if you hover over it, you have a tooltip. So I'm from Knoxville, so I hovered over Knoxville, and this shows, just additional information about that location. And then the table itself is just your detailed information. So if there's the institution, the address, city, state, and then the website itself. And then I have just these button slices on the left side. So again, living in Tennessee, I'm going to go ahead and click on here. And then if I select my college, we see the website is there. We have the hyperlink, and then it takes you to the website itself. So this is, again, how do we use these tools like Tableau Public to visualize the information that we want to show in a public fashion? So for me, the why behind creating this was like, how can I generate a dashboard that I can give to somebody who is not familiar with HBCUs and give them all this information condensed into one area? That way they can interact with it. And then my data set came from Wikipedia. So the Wikipedia just was the historically Black colleges and universities and where they are from, the institution, the city, state. I had to do some manipulation to get my lat and longs in order for me to populate that in here. So I have each individual city, state, lat, and long. That was a bit of a manual effort. I think if I could redo it again, I'll probably leverage Python or some type of scripting language to get that for me. But just creating that data set itself, I did manually have to do that myself. And then I just have additional information in here. And now this is my list, and this is my dashboard. So these are two dashboards, two examples that I have. Please hit me up if you have any questions or if you have any recommendations on what you do to make them better. Otherwise, we will talk to you all next week, next month, next time. And thank you so much for joining this session. And here's to you, Zifa. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Okay. So with that being said, I've seen those vises like together, both of them. Every time I see it, I'm still like, wow, like that's insane how he like built it. Cause if it's not an Excel file, I can't do it. And also just seeing the reach of the Du Bois challenge, like I feel like in school they were like, oh, slavery, Harriet Tubman, Du Bois, but I didn't know that he played a part in DataViz until like literally the Du Bois challenge, and I was like, wow, this is so amazing to know. And I think the challenge has really just skyrocketed like his name and that he played a part in DataViz. In 2020, I like sat down and tried to recreate one of the plates in Tableau. And I mean, obviously like I was out of school. I was sitting down for like 6-7 hours trying to get like each little line that he hand drew. And so it really just like gave me even more respect for the craft of DataViz that I'm doing with the tool that this man did with his hand. But thank you so much, Sekou. That was amazing. We are going to keep the ball rolling and go ahead and go into some networking, I believe. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, I'm pretty sure all the presenters would be more than happy to answer them. So feel free to hit them up through Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever medium you see fit. So now we're going to split into some quick networking for 5, maybe 10 minutes tops, depending on how many people there are. So we're going to go in breakout rooms. Here are some just basic questions in case you guys don't know what to talk about, but we just wanted to have a little session where it could be a smaller group and you can kind of just chat about things, maybe what brought you here today. If you don't work with Tableau, that's okay too. And yeah, just get to know each other and see some friendly faces. So I'm going to go ahead and split everybody into rooms. Or sorry, not 2. Let's do 6. I'll do it for 10 minutes.